Hey everybody, Gary Payrow here, aka Professor Cashflow. This is where we help investors develop truly passive income. And I love talking about that subject. I also love talking about my favorite way to create passive income, and that is real estate notes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as you could see from the title, and as you can probably guess from my easel here, we're going to be talking about the difference between performing and non-performing notes. Now, why in the world would somebody want to buy something that's non-performing? That's a good question, and that highlights the difference. What is the basic difference between a performing note and a non-performing note? Which again, we've talked before, a note is just a promise to pay, a promissory note, so it represents a stream of payments. So why would you buy a note if it's not having any payments? So the difference is performing. This is easier to understand. This one's paying, this one's not paying. That's the primary difference. Okay, so again, the person who has borrowed the money and was supposed to be making payments and is obligated to make payments stopped paying for one reason or another. What kind of recourse do you have? Well, you have the recourse of you can tell them to that you're going to foreclose on the property, but most people don't want to lose their property. That's why a lot of note investors will only invest on residential property. They will only invest in notes on owner-occupied property, because if you don't live in the house, you're not as tied to it. So renters could move out, and if there's a vacant property and it's owned by an investor, not a homeowner, it may be a little bit easier for him to walk away from that. That's not as difficult a conversation to have with your wife if you're a guy, as it would be if you have to say, okay, honey, we have to move now. So with yields, you get great yields on performing notes. You get 5 to 9%, something like that. Great. I mean, banks are paying, what, 0.5% now? So 5 to 9% is great, especially in an IRA. That's a great way to invest in a performing note where it just keeps coming in every month. Whereas non-performing notes, you're greater than 10% generally. Okay, so you basically, kind of where this drops off, the non-performing notes pick up. So you can invest that way. These are passive. Okay. What do you have to do to keep make money on a non-performing note? You just have to not close your bank account. Okay, as long as you keep that note in there, as long as that tenant keeps or that borrower keeps paying, you keep making money. Whereas non-performing, these are more active. Okay, they're more for the active investor. Most passive investors are going to be looking for the performing notes. But skills can pay a bonus, okay? Skills are good here. If you have the skill, that's a great way to apply those skills. Whereas if you have skills on the passive side, once you find the note, it's there, you own it, but you can't really do much to increase that yield. Whereas on this side, with some skill, it's like if you're a good house flipper. You can make more money on a house if you're a skilled flipper than you are if you're just some guy who's trying it out for the first time. Right now, there are more available right now. Now, of course, I like to keep these things evergreen, so this may not apply to you exactly where you are. But right now, at sort of the tail end of 2021, there are more available of the performing notes than the non-performing. But if any of you remember, if you're looking at this in the future, if you remember what was happening during COVID, there were a lot of moratoriums on foreclosures, so we didn't have a lot of non-performing notes. So these are coming. So depending upon when you're watching this video, you may be thinking, okay, I should get in line for that because they're coming, or I better jump on the bandwagon and start making some money. Because again, if you learn how to do this, you can make more money on the performing notes than you can on the non-performing notes than you can on the performing. So these are easy to manage. You just have a payment processor, and you go, what the heck is a payment processor? Well, you don't have to collect. I don't recommend that you collect your payments when you get a note. Typically, when you buy a note, there's already a payment processor in place. Those are the kinds of notes that I prefer to buy. If not, I immediately put them in there. So if you purchase a note from me, it would already have a payment processor in there. Somebody that handles the interaction with the borrower, and if they're late, they send the letter out. If they're late, they collect the late payment according to the terms of the note. They do the bookkeeping. They send you the the 1099 or whatever tax material you need. They send you a summary. They send you the check every month, as long as the tenant pays it. But you're not there collecting from the payment. The payment processor worries about that. Whereas this requires some work. Okay, again, not active. But again, if you work things out, that can work in better interest, to your benefit, because you can actually make more money if you're willing to do the work. Now, foreclosure is always a thing. Remember, if they stop making payments, they foreclose. You use foreclosure as a way to get the asset. And again, we'll show you some numbers on the next page, but foreclosure is a backup here. Is a backup. Whereas on this side, foreclosure, we'll just say FC, is a primary tool. Does that mean you always foreclose? No. Primary tool. You don't always foreclose, because how can you make money? You can make money here, you just make money by collecting. You keep collecting. You just keep collecting checks. Nice, very nice. That's the cash flow. Whereas on this side, you either foreclose or you loan mod. Now, what does that mean? Well, one of the great things about buying a note is that if you buy a non-performing note, you typically buy it at a discount. And that's one of the ways that you make more money, because you might buy a $100,000 note for only $70,000, $80,000. So now you don't have as much money into it as the original lender. And so if you go back and you say, hey, listen, Mr. Borrower, Mr. Homeowner, you don't want to lose your home, do you? So if you want to stay in your home, I can work it out with you. You haven't been making payments for 9 months. What happened? Is it COVID? Is it hospitalization? Is it somebody passed away in the family? Is it sickness? What is it? And can we work it out? Well, how much could you pay? Well, could you pay that for 6 months and then we'll kick it back up to the original payment? Can we take those payments that you didn't make, put them on the end of the loan? So you have all kinds of freedom, right? You are the bank. And so you can make the rules. The one who has the money makes the rules. You're the bank. You get to make the rules. So again, we've already talked about less skill required on this side, more skill required on this side. So what you'll see is this is better for passive investors, people who are like real estate, but maybe have a full-time job and don't really want to become professionals, real estate professionals, not yet maybe, whereas this is more for the active investor. Now, does that mean a passive investor is never going to get this? Well, we talked about in one of our I think it was my last video, where we said one of the ways you can get notes is by working with note investors like me. And so if you wanted to invest in a non-performing note, you can invest with a note investor. That's the way I would recommend doing it, because people in my business, we work all the time with people who want to be passive, but they don't always want to be on the at 5%. Maybe they want a little bit higher yield. So that can work, and also you can just lend us money so that we can buy a non-performing asset, and again that bumps it up up to a higher range of this, where again it's totally passive for you. So let's take a look at a non-performing note and how you would actually make money. Okay, so we know that here's a house. Now let's say that house has 200K on it. and let's say the value of the house is $450K. Okay, everybody there? So in this case, your investment has been secured. I dislike the word safe, even though I like safety, because it's just every investment can have its own problems. But it's a secure investment. It's secured by a $450,000 asset on a $200,000 investment on your part. So if you own that 200K note, and that means that here, okay, there's, right, you've got 250K upside. Now, does that mean that if they stop paying, you can go take that house and you can actually collect that 250? Well, it could happen, but how would that happen? You see, these are going to go to, you don't just foreclose all on your own. Where do you have to go? You have to go to the courthouse, right? And then we call them the courthouse steps. So there's the courthouse steps, and what they're going to do is they're going to force a sale called a trustee sale in a state where you have trust deeds like California. So you have a trustee sale, and at that trustee sale, the starting bid for a property at the courthouse steps is typically whatever is owed the bank. Remember, you're the bank now. So the bank says, I'm owed $200,000. Now, by the time you get here, you're probably owed more because you have probably had some legal expenses, and you might not like the thought of legal expenses. So again, this is not for the passive investor. For passive investors, you're just collecting. You're still on the other previous page, just collecting your checks every month. But this is how people make money on a foreclosure. Is that this is the starting bid? So by the time they get it, they are owed. Let's see. That 200K, maybe they're owed, 220K. Maybe they had $20,000 in expenses. But remember, I said you only buy this. You don't pay 200K for this non-performing note. It's not performing, so you never pay $200,000. So what if you paid 150 or 130K? Okay, if you paid one of those numbers, let's take the smaller for the bigger profit. So you take that over here, minus your 130, and minus your 20 of expenses, right? Now you see you have 70K profit. That 70K profit might take you 5-6 months to collect, but if you're making 70K on a 130,000 investment, that's close to 50% profit. And if it takes you 6 months to do it, that's close to doubling your money on an annualized basis. So that's how you make money. The other way, again, I said, is you can take this, you go back to the borrower, and you can start those payments back up again, and then you can turn this into a reperforming note. And once it's a reperforming note, you can then just collect the payments, or you can sell that note. You bought it at a discount, and now you can sell it at full value because now it's performing again. So if this were, $198,000, by the time you've got it reperforming $195,000, you can sell it for the full $195,000, and all those payments that you collected in the meantime just went into your hip pocket, your hip pocket account. So that's how it works. Now again, this is a non-performing note. Let's go back and just review. Performing notes are paying every month, in the 5 to 9% range. They're totally passive. And again, this is great for an IRA. Okay, when things are passive, that means they can be done in an IRA without getting risking a transaction that would prohibited transaction that would nullify your IRA due to it being inactive. You can't put sweat equity into a IRA investment. There are more of them available at this current time. They're easier Foreclosure is always there, but it's only a backup, and you just keep collecting. That's how you profit. So and this is typically for the passive investor, whereas this, it takes more skill. There's a lot of them coming, and it's more for the active investor. So that's it. That's my take on performing versus non-performing. So where are you? Are you one of the active guys where you and I could partner together on deals? Maybe I bring you a deal, you bring me a deal, we work together? Or is it something where you say, you know what, I've got a job, I don't need another job, I'm good at my job, and I want to stick with it, but I've got money sitting around in an IRA or a bank account that's really not working very hard for me, and Gary, you could help me, or one of your team could help me put that money to work and bolster my profits in my IRA or in my bank account. So that's it. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to Passive Monthly Profits and let us know if you're on the passive side. I'd like you to go to our website, Passive Monthly Profits.com. Go there. There's a free download for you that tells you some tips on how to create a better retirement using Cashflow. It's much better to use Cashflow than to pile up a big pile of cash. You'll be able to retire much sooner and have a lot higher security if you build cash flowing assets. So go there, you get that free download. You can also book a call with me and we can learn how to help each other generate more cash flow. So that's it from Professor Cashflow. You go have a great day, rest of your day, and go visit me on Passive Monthly Profits, and we'll talk. Take care.